It's good morning, Dr. Leanne Faulkner. Thank you for joining us at Yellow Shelf.
Oh, thank you for having me, Joanna. It's so lovely to be here.
Leanne, you and I have known each other for a while. Certainly from my perspective, your podcast, your business complements the wonderful world of Yellow Shelf. So congratulations. Today we're talking to you about your podcast, your business bookshelf, and your business is called Rereadable. What do we need to know about this fabulous podcast that you've started?
Thanks for the opportunity to talk about it. It's really a podcast that looks at just business books. And the reason I love it is because, well, I've just finished my PhD and I really learnt from that how important business skills are for business owners to help them reduce feeling stressed or anxious at work. We all go through that from time to time. And so, what I wanted was to have a podcast where we could talk about the sorts of books that have helped business owners along the way on their journey. And I thought, well, if we can share those stories on the podcast, there might be other business owners who are listening or business leaders who go, oh, I hadn't thought about that book for that to help me with that. And it might help them in turn. So, really, I guess it's about sharing experiences. And it's kind of grown a bit from there too, where now we have book authors and we've got some absolutely fabulous, as you know, business book authors here in Australia. And so it's been a great opportunity too for business authors to come onto the podcast and talk about why they've written their book and how it might help people in business. And I just love that. It's just been great.
Yeah. And, as we know, books that inspire us at work can also inspire us in our home life as well. And I think, when you set yourself up, in both home and life, it's really powerful. And oh
Yeah.
God, I think about the times how many people have recommended a book that it has inspired them on their work journey.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. And particularly when you think about how most businesses in Australia are actually self-employed people. So 64% of all businesses in this country are sole traders. They don't actually have employees. And
Yeah.
so quite often we're working from home.
Yeah.
And quite often the next step to that is those boundaries can tend to be a bit blurred around what's work and what's home. And I think that old adage of, well, you leave your home at home and work at work is just so wrong because we're
Yeah.
just one person
Yeah.
living a life.
Yeah.
And so often business books nowadays, I think, understand that, particularly as some of these great Australian books really understand the way we work has shifted and changed, and we need to be able to accommodate that that we're one person living one life, and particularly true for sole traders where we're at home. Boundaries around work are a little bit different. We don't have those social cues that you would have in a workplace that kind of says, now's lunchtime or now's home time. We're really dependent on our family, often family and friends. They're the people, they're like pseudo employees, they're like the unpaid employee part of the organization. And I know from my research that we talk to those people first quite often. We use those people for social cues around the way we work. And so being able to kind of traverse both like things like mindset
Yes.
and how we think about work or who we are as a person and how that influences the way we work. Those things are really just as important as the whole strategic approach to building a business. And I love that I get to have those discussions with such a variety of guests that come on the podcast.
Yeah. And Leanne, it is fair to say your conversation, that what differentiates Yellow Shelf and you go deeper, you go much deeper. Your podcasts are longer. And that we like that about each other's shows because
Yeah.
man, and we definitely know authors, mutual authors that we know. Leanne, I'd love you to share. It's so interesting, your journey. I mean, I mentioned at the beginning, you're now Dr. Leanne Faulkner. You're a business owner, you support businesses around well-being, health strategies and support for businesses, and you're
Yeah.
also a keynote speaker, and you're, oh my God, you're so often in the media. Tell me a bit about you, and then tell me what inspired you to actually create this podcast.
Yeah, sure. Well, yes, I have a background in, well, in corporate first, and now and then in small business. And I was the original founder of Billy Goat Soap, a skincare brand. And I was at a thing on the weekend saying people still call me the goat lady or the soap lady, which is kind of weird. But
Yeah.
anyway, that was quite a journey for me. And it really it was quite a challenge towards the end of my ownership of that business, and that led me into the field of looking at the mental health of small business owners, because at the time there was a lot out there for employees and a lot out there for general public supporting
Yeah.
them, but I felt like I was a bit unique in that I owned a business and I had so many people dependent on me to be well and
Yes.
run the business. And when I was not well, that had significant consequences on the business. And when I went to look for resources to support me as an entrepreneur, and depression keeps you up at night. So I would type in small business owner feeling stressed or anxious into Google, there would be nothing.
Yeah.
That kind of put me on this journey. And so I've been working in this mental health space, supporting or advocating for
Yes.
owners of businesses
Yeah.
for about 13 years now, which is
Wow.
incredible.
Yeah.
And the last five of that is where I did my research around really I've looked at what are the unique stressors that face us
Yes.
as sole traders
Yeah.
and micro business owners that are unique to us as owners of the business as opposed to employees. And those findings really did inspire me to start Rereadable because of that link between
Yeah.
skill learning and reducing stress. And I see business books as a little package of skill development that you can take with you anywhere. You don't have to have a subscription. You don't even have to have electricity.
Yeah.
Like you can actually just buy a book, and I sell secondhand books at Rereadable as
Yeah.
well. So
Great.
you don't even have to spend a lot of money to get a really good business book. And because I've spent so many years lecturing for the University of
Yeah.
Newcastle on business development and growth,
Yes.
there was just so many books that I loved and that we would talk about at uni that I thought, oh, these books really deserve a
Yeah.
bit more fanfare
Mm.
to all of us
Yeah.
running businesses, not just the people at uni. And so I loved being able to revive some of these older titles. And I offer them as pre-loved titles because the message in them is evergreen.
Yeah.
And so you can actually learn quite a lot about business for, say, $10. And
Yeah.
I think that's particularly good. Or if you want to stay, hip to the jive and read the latest title that's just been released, well, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
So, and I love the flexibility of a book in that it's very tactile. You can give it to somebody, you can shove it in your bag.
Yeah.
We went across the Nullarbor just before Christmas on the Indian Pacific, and we had no internet. And
Yeah.
it was beautiful because I
Wow.
had a book
Yeah.
and I could just sit there and read at my leisure. I wasn't dependent on having to download something or
Yeah.
having a subscription to something.
Yeah.
I just had a book in my bag, and
Yeah.
there's just something really beautiful about that. And a secondhand book, particularly,
Yeah.
is great for the environment. You can
Isn't it?
give it to people,
Mm.
they're starting a business. You can say, I care about you. I care about your success in business. Here's a book to help support you on your journey.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful little learning package, and that fits so lovely with what I learned in my PhD about the value of skill development. Because the more we know in business,
Yeah.
the more control we feel we have
Oh.
over our job. And that makes us feel a bit more powerful. And that puts us in a position to be equal and
Mm.
on, equal terms with all the stakeholders in our business. And having that sense of power and control, and I don't mean, oh, Dr. Evil, I mean the Oprah power.
Yes.
Having that sense of power and control is actually a stress buster.
Yeah.
So we can talk about mental health at work without ever talking about mental health.
Yeah.
So if you learn how to do a really good cash flow forecast, if you learn how to build a sales funnel, if you learn how to develop a client trading agreement, all of those things are actually ways to reduce stress at work. And
Yeah.
that's the sort of thing that I learned in my PhD, and that's why I just love business books. I do. I love
Yeah.
them.
And it comes across in your podcast. I can see, you've come from this purpose-driven entrepreneur with Billy Goat. You've gone on this journey, you've experienced the journey, and now through your podcast, is it fair to say you
Yes.
just have those wonderful conversations, you share books, you yeah, share with others. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's it. And I also knew, and we know also from other research that business owners love hearing from other business owners.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of weight in that because these people understand the situation and the journey that you're in. And so when I talk to business owners on the podcast about the books that they've loved, I do that deliberately in the hope that other business owners might be listening and go, oh, that might help me too if it
Yeah.
helped them.
Yeah.
It's not just me, although there will be more of me through the year, but
I
it's not
love
just
that too. I
me.
think that's
So
great. Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of the purpose of it, really. It's ultimately the business Rereadable and the podcast is just about helping business owners to not feel as stressed or anxious or not have those periods as often when
Yeah.
they go to work. That's the aim.
And look, as a listener, there's a beautiful connect with your podcast. So I'd
Oh,
recommend anyone listening take a listen. And
thanks.
yeah. So Leanne, what tell us about how we get in contact with you if we're curious, like on
Sure.
LinkedIn or the websites. Tell us that because I'll put that in the show notes to make it
Oh,
really
thanks. Thank you. You do such a great job promoting these podcasts,
simple.
don't you? You do a fabulous job. You're just so good. You're great. So you can either find me on LinkedIn. I'm there quite a bit. So it's just Leanne Faulkner. You'll
Yep.
find me. Or you can visit rereadable.com.au.
Yeah.
And you'll find the bookstore there, the business bookstore, and you can contact me there as well. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, Leanne, like I said, I'll put that in the show notes. I'll even put you've got a previous podcast. I know you've done, and I know we were talking before, you may well bring that back. So I'll put some links
great.
into your business bookshelf and rereadable, but I'll also acknowledge your previous one because if
Oh,
that comes back, that'd be really handy
yeah,
if
thank
anyone's
you.
watching this down the track that you may well have two. You
Yeah, that's
lady.
Fortitude at Work. We've done
Yeah.
2 seasons of that, really looking at the behind the scenes, the communication, the connection skills that are needed to for small business owners to be able to reduce their stress and think about how they work at work. That's what Fortitude at Work is all about. And yeah, that will come back. So thank you. That'd be lovely too. There's
Yeah,
two
I'll do
seasons of that.
that. That's and Leanne, look, let's stay connected because I know you and I
Great.
support each other. Good luck with I'm sure there's going to be lots of guests, and like you alluded to, you're going to give your own sort of reviews and your own talks in the podcast moving forward. So good luck with that.
Oh,
And thank
thank you.
you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all the support. I really do appreciate it. I'm so glad our paths crossed. It's lovely.
Cheers, Leanne.
Bye.